Tonight, depending on where you are located, we're in Dubai. Myself and Sarah, our director of marketing, I'm the co-founder and co-CEO. We're going to be your host for the evening. Can't wait to jump into it. So the agenda for today is, a high-level recap over the, KSA, uh, macroeconomic and even a general kind of view as to the real estate market activity that we're going to recap in the first part of the agenda. We're going to go through some details regarding our funds and product updates, and then we're going to leave some time to address any questions that you may have about all the above or anything that's on your mind. So let me start off with the Saudi market update. I just came back from Riyadh, and we obviously, as Stake, are super pumped to be a active participant in the real estate market at large in Saudi Arabia. We believe the opportunity in front of us is unparalleled, and we want to get into all the reasons why we see that growth in front of us being driven by all sorts of different factors that will lead to excellent returns for you investors. Um, Firstly, taking a step back, looking at the overall market from a bird's eye view, you start off, any kind of discussion that you have that relates to real estate typically starts off by looking at population and population growth. Um, we're coming from a place here in Saudi Arabia where you've got 35 million people, and that's unlike other GCC markets where expat communities uh, tend to be quite large and larger than locals. Here you have 44% as expats, and there's a lot of upside to that number as there's a ton of migration and new jobs being created in Saudi Arabia that will be adding to the population growth. But nearly 63% of the population in Saudi Arabia is under the age of 30. So it's highly young and digitally enabled or digitally savvy population that is looking for homes as they basically graduate, and that kind of derives a lot of demand for residential apartments and villas. The contribution of the real estate market has doubled literally over the last couple of years, from 6% expected to hit 12% this year. We're nearly about that run rate. And what we see is this flock to urban areas. So you have these markets that are attracting most of the migration, being predominantly Riyadh, but also there's interesting dynamics in other cities like Jeddah, and especially, of course, the religious, the holy cities of Mecca and Medina, and a few other pockets of a few other markets that have interesting dynamics like Dammam and others. So it's highly fueled by population growth as a market. And just looking at the demand for housing, there's not enough, build that's coming to supply that demand. So that typically leads to very attractive returns as a market kind of overall conditions. Uh, what we love about this market additionally is that it's overlaid this dynamic of supply, demand, and population growth and migration is supplemented with a fantastic uh, plan that is coming from the leadership with a pro-government, with a pro-business government, which was released in 2016, being the Vision 2030 for the country, which is completely transforming it. from a previously quite closed and conservative, or conservative is the wrong word, but kind of uh, less rapidly adopting new change, to a very progressive, to a very ambitious, and I would say um, exciting new plan that really kind of holds real estate as part of it, a core fundamental part of that plan, to build essentially the non-oil sector of Saudi Arabia, where, as historically speaking, it's been close to 90%, almost, the oil sector's contribution to the GDP has been extremely high, highly concentrated in oil. What's been done since the Vision 2030 was released is a fantastic progress to date, with over 50% um, of the non for over 50% of the GDP coming from the non-oil sector already, and we're seeing that obviously effect transpire in the real estate market. You have jobs, as I mentioned earlier, that are being created by uh, being, I would say, driven mostly by the PIF, the Public Investment Fund, which is the government's main Vision 2030 vehicle, that is building all sorts of real estate projects, from Diriyah, to Gidea City, to Neom, to Red Sea Global, to New Murabba. These fantastic giga projects that are really fueling the demand for real estate, or at least the global interest and eyes on Saudi Arabia, but also different projects across all sectors of the economy, to be able to drive growth and transition the economy from, as I mentioned, a very oil-centric economy to a new age, digitally enabled and diversified economy for us in Saudi Arabia, not to be as exposed to oil sector movements that can be, the swings can be quite volatile, as we're seeing actually right now with the public markets at large, whether it be stocks or commodities, or um, other asset classes. So shifting away from oil, backed by the government, and creating tons of jobs in the country is actually the most favorable conditions to drive long-term growth in the real estate sector at large. Uh, a key pillar of the Vision 2030. Um, Sorry, can you mute, Sarah or Flora? Okay, sorry. A key pillar of the Vision 2030 um, plan is really to kind of ignite the Saudi tourism sector. Um, there are fantastic natural destinations, natural resources, and amazing topographies in the country that have been under tapped. That the leadership is very keen to surface and bring to the world. What you're seeing in front of you is incredible. Coastal areas in the Red Sea project. Neom is obviously a very unique project in the middle of actually a coastal desert city with very unique conditions that are conducive to basically building something so innovative as a kind of a city for the future, like Neom, that really is meant to be self-sustainable um, and quite cutting edge. When you have even themes like the Qiddiya project, which is revolves around uh, parks and this very large focus on gaming as a sector for the Saudi economy. Qiddiya is the flagship for that, as well as several different other really landmark projects and flagship developments that are meant to really attract tons of tourism and really ignite, as I mentioned before, all sorts of adjacent drivers of the economy, whether it's the hospitality sector, the residential or commercial property sector, the services, the trading sectors. There's a ton of other sectors that really kind of feed off of the tourism boom that is expected, that is meant to be driving the tourist numbers up to 150 million by 2030 from what is 100 million as of today. As so far as real estate is concerned, we I mentioned a few of the aspects that we like that are driven off the population, but let's look at the latest update as to the kind of numbers, the transactions, the price action. So we firstly see that one of the key, as I mentioned, aspects of what's driving the market is Vision 2030 and the home ownership target that was since day one earmarked for 2030, which was 70% home ownership. From a 49% kind of level around 2016, that number has grown significantly already to 64% almost by the end of 2023, which shows already how much demand has supported the real estate market from first-time buyers. Now, compared to developed markets like in the US and the UK, where home ownership rates are 65 and 64% respectively, that kind of we're already kind of there in terms of where developed markets are, and actually think the leadership in Saudi Arabia is aiming for even higher levels to really kind of have most optimal, let's say, national conditions for growth, and really home ownership is key to any kind of wealth creation plan within any economy or any nation. So it's very much Vision 2030 was very much anchored in that concept, and it's been phenomenal to see the home ownership rate actually improve so fast that we're in 2025 very close to the 70% mark. Now that number is obviously going to continue to shift. Even if we're getting close to the target, I just want to highlight that there's tons of qualified first-time buyers that are going to come to the market due to the highly youthful population. So there's no kind of stagnation coming, because the denominator, the number of people who are eligible to buy first homes who are reaching the age, I think, in terms of qualification, has to be, in terms of measuring this, individuals that are aged above a certain age of usually 18 that come into that market. And every year you have, with a population growth of, roughly 2 to 3%, we're talking about, close to 1 million alone homes that are needed for first-time buyers annually. And the supply, as I mentioned earlier, we can get into it hopefully in the next couple of slides, is really still yet to catch up with all that demand, which has led to prices, growing substantially over the last 5 years. So to meet this demand, all sorts of government entities that are in the real estate sector are building and are trying to build fast, but also even private sector developers are building fast as well. We've seen the emergence of fantastic new developers into the market, having outstanding expertise in different areas, whether it be villas, townhouses, apartments. The emergence of apartments in Saudi Arabia is actually a fairly recent development, and coming from a place where most people really loved. Kind of having their own homes and standalone villas. So apartments to cater for the youthful population has really swelled over the years, with a lot of private and government entities or developers supplying the market with tons of homes. But it's been recently quoted that there's about 115,000 new homes needed each year to cope with the continuous demand, whether it be domestic, homegrown, or yeah, migration as well within Saudi Arabia from the other cities that are coming to Riyadh, for instance, and um, these large swarms of expats that PIF entities, as well as other companies moving their headquarters to Saudi Arabia, are attracting and actually requiring on the ground. So this figure of 3.5 million units that we have at the moment is meant to grow to 3.9 by 2028. When it comes to FDI, uh, Saudi Arabia has crossed, I believe, last year 100 billion riyals. 2023, they reached 96 billion. Uh, the 2030 target is to get to $100 billion, which is 375 billion riyals. It's an ambitious target, but again, it's highly favorable as a market to have, the government in on your side, really kind of a pro-business government that has these ambitious targets that is going to continue to spend stimulus, whether it's fiscal or, I mean, monetary is typically driven off monetary policy in the US, but fiscal spending and investment, public investment, is quite large and really driven by this Vision 2030 ambition to diversify the economy away from oil. And so that makes for a top tier investment destination with lots of expectations for foreign capital to start to come in a big way. And that is only more supportive to or conducive to growth in investment or asset values. You have the premium residency that was recently released as a form of kind of development towards that direction of opening up the market for foreigners to start to own real estate, subject to a 4 million rial entry point. It's kind of like the golden visas in the UAE, where the price point is slightly less. But when it comes to that and other initiatives that help support FDI, the government is really focused on, and the Ministry of Investments has specifically this mandate to attract foreign capital as much as possible to the kingdom. In terms of policies on the real estate market side. So there was the Second Aid program that was highly successful, that helped 1.2 million families purchase homes since its launch. Um, First-time buyers have made the eligibility to qualify for a mortgage for first-time buyers was reduced down to 5 to 10% in 2017, right after the release of Vision 2030. So they went straight into tackling this home ownership target, and it really kind of fueled the market essentially with subsidized home financing for these first-time buyers. Uh, And in just this month, actually, we heard of we've seen, sorry, the release of a new foreign ownership law that actually, for the time being, just excludes Mecca and Medina and allows foreign buyers actually to buy into new developments for developments that are 30 million riyals and above for investment, and should be developed for within 5 years. So it's another way of attracting capital for new build, away from just the domestic demand, to really kind of allow foreigners to participate in the growth. And they're trying to streamline these applications as much as possible through e-service portals. They've had fantastic improvements on the real estate market. I would say mechanics at large when it comes to rentals. So everything's been digitized. Agreements are centralized in what they call the Ijar system that is linked to your local residency in a way that's extremely seamless, that really supports the ease of leasing and ultimately buying as well. And so, with all that said, thanks to State, it's never been easier to participate in the market. I'll hand over to Sarah on this slide and a few of the others to walk you through what we've built for you.
Thanks, Manar. So as Manar mentioned, it's never been easier to invest in Saudi real estate. I'm sure today we've got a bit of a combination on the line from stake investors or non-investors, people that are curious maybe about the KSA market. So historically, nobody outside of Saudi, as Manar mentioned, was actually able to invest into Saudi. And what we've done is we've brought pure innovation to the market where anyone from around the world can invest into private real estate. So the way we're doing this is through funds. We had our first fund that was launched in December as of last year. I'll share the details on that shortly. But there's two different types of funds that we offer at Stake. They are income funds and development funds, and within they could be structured quite differently. So they tend to have a fixed duration. Income funds will pay out monthly, true to kind of Stake and what we do in the UAE with Dubai real estate, where we offer that rental income every single month. And then development funds are slightly different. These are off plan under construction units as well, which is obviously very big, especially in the Saudi real estate market. Now, what's interesting about these funds is they used to have a very, very high minimum ticket to be able to start investing in these funds. What we've managed to do by partnering with fund managers is able to allow anybody to start investing from 500 SAR. So we're allowing anyone, like I say, from around the world to start investing into them. And the funds themselves can be residential, they can be commercial. On the income side, they can be paid out monthly, quarterly, or semi-annually. And it really does depend, fund to fund, but they're much larger fund sizes. So the example I'll show you, our very first fund in Saudi, it gives you a good illustration of kind of what the fund looks like. If you know our Dubai market very well and how we operate in the Dubai market under fractional real estate, we do it on a unit per unit basis. So it might be a single 2-bedroom apartment in downtown Dubai, for example. Whereas in Saudi, they're much larger funds, which is great because it offers you a lot of different diversification than what we've been able to offer thus far in the Dubai market. So kind of where we're at, so this is our first opportunity, which is Mulkia Backyard Income Generating Fund. It was a huge success for us as our first fund. We had over 5,000 investors from over 90 countries. And like I say, it's the first time people outside of Saudi could actually start investing into Saudi. So the fund size itself was 100 million SAR. And this is a large commercial unit. So what's most interesting maybe about this fund in particular is the anchor tenant that we had. So when we're outsourcing the right funds and the right deals in Saudi to present to our investors, what's really important is, especially on an income generating fund, is seeing, is it leased, who is it leased by, and who are those tenants? So Hunger Station is kind of like the Deliveroo of Saudi, and they own nearly 50% of the space. So they were leasing that. So this is a commercial office building, but it had a really strong anchor tenant, which is why it was important for us as we presented it to our investors, in a fantastic location in northern Riyadh as well. Um, this fund was closed off a couple of months ago. As you can see, it was approved by the CMA on March the 11th. It's all publicly listed, so you can see the details of the fund. And we've already had 2 months worth of dividends paid out on this fund already. So that's over 1.2 million SAR that has been paid out to these investors. So huge success for our first fund. And that gives you an idea of kind of how the difference maybe works between our Dubai product and the Saudi product. So one thing that is we've just announced days ago, early this week, is our referral program. This is something that has been a huge success for us in Dubai on our Dubai product, our UAE product. What we've managed to do is bring this over to Saudi as well. So we have 5 different tiers. Depending on how much you invest, you get different perks and incentives. Our investors love this in Dubai. It's very, very popular. It's a good way for you to refer stake onto your friends and your family, and any other kind of platforms you have, spread the word. And just like with any other referral and reward program, you get rewarded the more you invest at stake. But there's some really good partnerships in there from the likes of Bloomberg, great cashback incentives as well between the KSA and UAE. To anybody who might know our traditional referral program that we had before, this was a 3-tier approach. What we have done is we've expanded that to offer more opportunity to our investors. There's quite a few investors on the top end. They can invest more now to be able to get into prestige. And we've also introduced a mid-tier as well, in between what was our intro and plus. So I do encourage you to head to the app, go to the rewards tab. You'll be able to see all of the tiers listed there. You'll be able to see where you fit in, what current tier you're at, and how you can work your way up to the next tier as well. So, what's next? I can confirm we have a fund coming up very soon. It is a development fund. It is coming within less than days. I'm not going to give a set timeline because Ricardo, our CTO, might shoot me. But we've got a fund coming very soon, which is super exciting. So we've had a bit of time to find the right asset that we feel is the right one to present to our investors. So keep your eyes on the app. Keep your eyes on the push notifications that you'll be coming through and your emails. There will be details coming very, very soon on this specific fund. So over to you. It's completely your turn now. This is an AMA session. So ask us anything about Saudi, the market, anything you'd like to ask, please pop it in the box. You'll be able to see the chat box and the Q&A box, and we'll start answering some of your questions.
Okay, let's get started. We've got Muhammad asking, do I have to specify UAE or KSA when referring? The answer is no. So we've unified the tiers between both markets, whereas previously that wasn't the case. So that's been a major new improvement. Wherever your referral invests, you will get the credit depending on your tiers. And then your friend as well stands to gain a nice referral gift by using your link. But yeah, he can avail that referral gift in any of the markets, of the 2 markets. Likewise, yourself, when you do earn your referral rewards, you can spend them as well in any of the 2 markets. Mushtaq is asking, since expats can own property in Saudi Arabia but aren't allowed to rent them out directly, how does stake structure its investments so that expat investors can still earn rental income legally and smoothly? Okay, great question. Now, I'm not too sure about the first statement because yes, you're right. There were limitations on expats who are residents and how they own property and whether or not they're allowed to make rental income. But I can assure you, what we have here with stake is through the CMA regulated funds. the ability to actually create these real estate investment opportunities through the fund structures that have no restrictions whatsoever in regards to what you do with the properties, whether you develop, whether you lease and distribute income, or otherwise. In any asset class or category of real estate, it's pretty flexible. And lastly, it is not limited to foreigners, sorry, expats that are resident alone, but it's actually we are the first, as Sarah mentioned earlier, we are the first and only platform that allows foreign non-residents to acquire exposure or actually real estate in Saudi Arabia. Let me jump into another one of the questions that is not being answered. So foreigners are not allowed to buy under 1.7 million. Jahangir is asking this question. Foreigners are not allowed to buy under $1 million of property. Only option we have to invest is in a fund. Yes, correct. It's slightly, is it different than UAE? Correct. It's slightly different than in the UAE because in the UAE, we operate a fractional ownership model or framework where we source individual properties actually much smaller sized because each property is housed by an SPV where you own shares in the SPV to give you that direct ownership in that individual property, usually mostly apartments, but we've recently started with villas. When it comes to Saudi Arabia and the fund structure, it is by design meant to cater for larger assets, so even more inaccessible assets are at your disposal as investors on stake, which is the most exciting part. I mean, in no world without stake would you have been, especially as a foreign non-resident, able to, for instance, access the backyard commercial and retail plaza that Sarah walked you through earlier, which was our first fund. But there are funds in the pipeline that are as exciting, if not more, that you will be able to do only through stake. And that is available for you from not $1 million, but we're breaking it down, the barrier to entry as low as 500 riyals, which is about $130 if we're talking in US dollars.
Maybe I can jump in and answer a couple of questions as well. So first of all, there's a question here about cashback on State Prestige. KSA in the UAE, you get 3%. In KSA, you get up to 1% as well on the Prestige tier. So again, if you go to the rewards tab, you'll be able to see what the specific cashback you get for every single tier. But that's it for the Prestige tier. Another question about the development fund that we've got coming up quite soon. What will be the exit criteria? So there will be a certain length of hold on that fund where you'll be able to see what the expected time is to hold that. And that will also explain when the exit will be. So if you kind of stay close to your app, like I say, in the coming hours and days, you'll be able to see the specific exit and what that specifically looks like. There's a couple of questions about can we use a demo version of the app to learn how to use the app? So we don't have a specific demo version, but what we do have is some really useful kind of how-to videos and guides on how the app works. If you go to our YouTube channel, you'll be able to see the how it works videos. They are also in the app as well, just to explain and talk you through every single step of the process. They're a couple of minutes long, but they're very useful. So like I say, if you go to our YouTube, you'll be able to find those for the UAE and Saudi as well. Another question here on what investment fund type is better for the Saudi market, income generating or development. Look, this really depends on you as an investor and what your investment preferences are. We're really fortunate that we're going to be offering both, and that is because there's a belief in both of them as investment products. When it comes to income generating, you're getting your income paid in and you can compound that and reinvest it. with development, you are waiting to then get those returns. So it really does depend if you're going after more of an income or you want to wait and look at capital appreciation. There is still capital appreciation in some of the income generating funds, and that is completely laid out. So you'll be able to see what that looks like. But if you really want to go after that capital appreciation, you're willing to wait to get those returns, then development's best for you. So it really does come down to you as an investor, what your preferences are. One thing we always say at Stake is a diversified portfolio is a healthy one. So I think the fact that we're going to be offering both is a really good opportunity for you as an investor to try out different investment types. Just a question about the UAE market here and what visas we're offering. So in the UAE, we currently offer the UAE Golden Visa. If you invest more than 2 million dirham on the platform, that can be varied across multiple properties, which is the beauty of the Golden Visa through Stake. You're not leveraged into one, and we manage the entire process for you. Unfortunately, we don't have the investor visa on Stake, which is a lower investment amount. We haven't managed to secure that yet. So it's just the Golden Visa for now. But we would love to be able to offer that maybe one day. Maybe I'll just take the one more question before handing back over to Manar. And one question here is just what the returns have looked like. We've been property maybe in the last 3 to 4 years in the UAE. What was the expected return, and did we meet those returns? So yeah, we've had some fantastic success stories from our portfolio. We've done quite a few whole exits, so we've exited the properties early as well, where investors have seen well over 20% returns. If you look at our portfolio over the last 12 months, it's over a 10% return when we look at that yield and appreciation. So there's been investors that have made really fantastic money, and that is a yearly ROI as well. I'll hand back over to you, Manar, to answer some more.
Sure. Let me take Farouk's question, which is for a beginner. What is the difference between fund investment and direct purchase? Well, simply put, the direct purchase has the whole entire asset, whether you're talking about a single apartment all the way up to, through to a villa or a building. It can be a title deed, can be made up of any sized asset. It's in that title deed is basically the ownership interest that you have in the property, and that would be entirely yours if it's a direct purchase, typically. And the difference between that and a fund investment is that you are under a fund investment. If you're not the only fund investor, if you're typically like on Stake, being joined by other investors in that ownership of the property, the fund is your vehicle. And what's great about doing that versus the direct purchase is that you are protected by very rigorous regulations in Saudi Arabia that are in place by the Capital Markets Authority that will protect you as an investor. And are designed basically to protect you as an investor and make sure that we are held accountable for that investment product to you in our diligence in sourcing the asset, to our responsibility to maintain it, as well as our KYC or compliance requirements, as well as our integrity that we need to maintain, especially on things like disclosures, to give you basically as much transparency as you would have as though you were a owner directly, actually minus all the headaches of having to do things yourself. So that's why we as a platform would make that available for you to transact digitally. And the difference for you effectively as well is that you don't have to cough up that big amount to buy the property by yourself. You can, from as little as 500 riyals, start to participate in the same asset, or even better, because we're doing selection. Fund managers are expert fund managers in Saudi Arabia are doing the structuring and sourcing of these assets and opportunities as investment opportunities to be able to deliver to you the return that you're looking for without any headaches. And how does a fund allow ownership in the whole cities? That's currently allowed. And recently, even the CMA has allowed for foreigners to acquire shares in publicly listed companies that operate in Mecca or own real estate in the holy cities. Previously, that was not possible. And we mentioned it earlier that the newest release of the foreign ownership law in Saudi Arabia allows you to buy development properties, basically off-plan projects that are being built outside of the holy cities. So when it comes to the holy cities, you have only two options effectively as a foreigner. You have the real estate companies that are listed on the stock exchange, which are very few. And again, they're not designed to be investment products that are akin to ownership of the real estate. They are basically real estate developers in the whole cities, or stake, and where stake offers you single asset, either income generating or development funds that a lot of transparency gets given to you, and the power of selection is with you to choose which one of those opportunities you like, whether they're in the holy cities or elsewhere. But you will be able to, inshallah, in the future, we would like to release in the pipeline projects in the holy cities for investors to get participation in the growth in those markets. John Mahir is asking, overall, the estimated ROI for both the sum of rent and exit for the property average will be? That is a good question. So when you look at the two different types of funds, when it comes to income generating funds, we're looking at rent to be able to distribute to you on a monthly basis what is the equivalent of a 7 to 9%, maybe even a bit more. We're seeing some opportunities at the market that are slightly more in terms of the yield. So that dividend comes to you on a monthly basis. Those are income generating assets. And obviously with some additional, a second component, the second layer of your return coming from the growth in the value of that property. So capital appreciation should get you roughly to a total return when you combine both the dividends and the price appreciation over a 4 to 5 year term, that is more than 10%. So that is what a income generating fund does. When it comes to a development fund, it doesn't distribute any dividends. So there's no rent. There's only exit from the property price appreciation at the time of exit. And that should deliver to you in return for not taking distributions, a even higher return. So we're talking anywhere between 14 to 20 almost percent annualized return on development funds, which is extremely attractive in a market that we said, for all the great reasons, has a lot more reasons. A lot more reasons it's going to go well and is well supported by demand ultimately for these projects that are being built. So it's like this fantastic risk reward opportunity that is highly geared towards growth. I'll answer just one more and I'll hand it over to Sarah, because my answers are typically a lot longer than hers, and I'll try to wrap it up. We only have 15 minutes left. Please tell us more about non-resident tax in KSA and give the first fund as example about what will be the next ROI. The net ROI, sorry. That's a very, very good question, because the non-resident investors are subject to a 5% withholding tax on their profits. So I'll give you a very specific example. The backyard fund that we launched with was almost 100 million riyal in total equity. The distributions were 8% annualized, distributed on a monthly basis. So when you look at your, let's say, 100K investment into that fund, to make numbers simple, you're going to be, if you were a resident, going to be earning or receiving 8,000 riyals annually. But because you are a foreign non-resident, or a non-resident period, actually, not a foreigner. I mean, even Saudi nationals that are based outside of Saudi Arabia are subject to that withholding tax. And instead of 8,000 annually, you'll be receiving 7,600. So there'll be an automatic deduction from the fund manager to be paid to the federal tax authority of 400 riyals per year from your monthly distributions. I hope that answers the question. This is only as it relates to the income that is being distributed, but it's the same concept applies to your profits at exit once the project or the asset has been sold, and capital is being returned. Then 5% will apply to the profit that is generated at exit, only to the profit, not to your 100K investment. But if, let's say, the property has appreciated by 20%, and so there's 20,000 riyals that you would normally, if you were a resident, receive, you're just going to be receiving, in that case, 19,000 riyals. Over to you.
Thanks. So question here about when the expected date is of the next fund, and can we share any specific details? So because we are regulated by the Capital Markets Authority, we can't share details until a certain point in time. So all I can tell you right now, it is a development fund and it will be coming very, very soon. Also questions here about whether we'll be offering Saudi visas like we do in the UAE. So currently we aren't able to do that. It's not on our initial roadmap right now, but as Saudi brings in more of these visa options, it may be something we look to do, but it's not currently planned. Just a question here about the UAE market as well, asking that in the UAE we typically focus on apartments. Are there plans to expand to townhouses and villas? So we do focus a lot on apartments. The best returns tend to be on the apartment side, but we are also exploring villas for fix and flip, which is our new investment strategy where we buy a property, we do a full renovation, and within about 12 to 18 months, we flip the property for a return. That's why we tend to focus more on townhouse and villas. We have had a few villas and townhouses before in the likes of the Springs and the Lakes. But it's not a core focus. But if the unit is the right one and we feel like it offers our investors the right return on investment, then we present that to our investors. A question here if we'll also be doing residential in Saudi or just commercial buildings. So yes, we are also looking at residential projects. So it will be a combination. The benefit though is that, in the UAE, because our DFSA regulation only permits us to do residential, we don't do commercial. There's a lot of stake investors that want that access to commercial real estate. So it's good that we can offer that in Saudi. But we will also be doing residential as well. So there will be a combination. Another question here asking about the difference in the yearly investment return and the net yield. So your yearly investment return will include your appreciation, your net yield will just be your rental income. Just asking another question. Yes, so KSA fund, our next one is a development fund, and it will be in April. Definitely will be in April. There's also questions here about how often we will have funds in Saudi. So we know that we haven't had one for the last kind of just over a month. And we are aiming to always have, that Saudi fund live. We've just been making sure we acquire the right unit and the right asset. It's really, really important to us that we show the best investment opportunities. We don't just want to put anything on there. We're really strict on the type of funds we offer, which is why it's taken us a while to bring this next fund to you. But we were having some great conversations now with building that good pipeline to be able to bring more consistent funds on Saudi. Another question about the minimum investment amount. So just like in the UAE, you can invest from 500 SAR. So 500 SAR in Saudi, 500 dirham in the UAE. Another question about the typical tenure of a development fund. So this really does vary depending on what fund and at what stage the project is. It can range anything from maybe, a couple of years up to a few more years, but it really does depend on the specific fund. So you will probably find a variety over this year as we bring in some development funds. You'll see that there's a combination of some that are maybe a shorter term hold versus a longer term hold. Um, Another question here just around we've had quite a lot of feedback on the app actually today, which is great. Please send your feedback. All of this goes to our product and tech team. And it's just asking for filtering and sorting. That is all coming. It's in our roadmap, but yeah, your app feedback is very much appreciated. Just some questions here about how I refer. So go to the referral tab in the app. You'll be able to have your referral link and share that on to people in particular. Just going to take another two questions. First of all is, will the recording be shared or shared out on emails? Yes, this will also be available on YouTube, so you can listen to this recording after this, after we're kind of finishing up on the webinar. And Manar, I'll hand back over to you.
Cool. Let me just have a few more minutes to answer Khadija, who's asking, most recently in the news, it was reported that there's a study to possibly fix rents, commercial, residential. Will this have any effect on stake? It's a very, very good question. The market in Saudi Arabia did not have, I would say, effective rules that were in place to govern what landlords can do with existing tenants or in terms of raising rental rates. And much like the UAE market has over time developed systems and controls for that through rental indices, namely, and a maximum cap for the leasing rate to be increased. Those are starting to form in Saudi Arabia. So it's only good news actually for us because the market then starts to mature and understand how these things work, and there's less contention when the market essentially is driven up and leasing rates go up. You know exactly up to what point you can increase rents annually, and that's really the beauty of real estate, is that on income generating assets, the annual rents really appreciate themselves in a market that's growing, and so it affects stake only by way of removing complexity, removing risk of contention or dispute with tenants, and allowing us to operate with more efficiently. And it's very good that we're entering the market now when leasing rates are already quite high, or where we see upside. We're factoring in those limits into our investment strategies, so in order to make sure that we're cognizant of that fact. And so it's great that it's coming in now, not later. And for us, it's the right timing. I'll answer very quickly, try to answer quickly. For Assure is asking for deployment fund. If the fund, I think this is meant to be for development fund. If the fund needs to be a hold minimum for a minimum period, is it compulsory to exit after the time of expiry, or it can be converted to investment fund and dividends will be provided? That's a very good question. Development funds are earmarked to be exited at maturity, whether it's 3, 4, or 5 years. Some development funds are even shorter than 3 years, actually. But the one that we're kind of going to be releasing imminently is essentially a growth play meant to be an exit. There are no there's no dividends that are expected in the base case scenario. There's always a scenario, of course, that it can convert to an income generating asset, but along that time period of 4 years, which will be the term of our fund, it's one or the other. Typically, it's either income generating or it's development earmarked for growth at exit. But in the an interesting hybrid between the two is what we call build to lease or fixed and lease, where you're actually upgrading the asset and leasing it for the purpose of distributing that leasing income, and then eventually you exit the property. So it's not just one or the other. Some projects, some funds that we're going to release, hopefully in the near future, that you will see, are meant to convert, like you said, properties to income generating after spending some capital expenditure on it. I think we have 3 minutes. Let me try and answer a few more. Is it possible for investors to have a bank account in KSA? If you're not based in Saudi, it's difficult. Some investors would prefer to keep their money in KSA and receive the cash back into an account in KSA, but this is not possible because they do not live there. That's correct. You need to be a resident, typically, to have a bank account in Saudi Arabia. So with us as a wallet, you can treat that almost as a domestic account where you're investing from it and receiving your cash back and your dividends locally in Saudi Arabia, but it doesn't, kind of without having a bank account, you can't really kind of move them and spend them locally unless you wire the funds back to your bank account outside of Saudi Arabia, and spend in Saudi Arabia with those funds. Are we going to invest in an SPV type of company that owns the property, or directly the name of the land, or to directly have our name on the land? That's a very good question. Neither, actually. Well, it's more closer to the first, where a fund is represented by an SPV that is held by a custodian on behalf of the fund. This is all regulated frameworks by the CMA. That is a very large market. Yeah, there's close to 220 billion riyals under management by real estate fund managers that are in that that are operating in that way, where the fund really is a vehicle that aggregates investors' capital and is represented by an SPV that acquires the asset and on behalf of the fund. And you, as fund unit holders, are the ultimate beneficiaries of that asset. Just like as though your names were on it, but there's actually, as I mentioned earlier, a lot more protections due to the regulations. So that's how it looks when it comes to funds that are acquiring lands to develop, or properties that are income generating.
Okay, I think that's right on the dot. That's all we've got time for. I think we've got through a lot of questions. If you do have any more questions for us, drop us an email at contact@getstate.com. We will be sharing this deck as well and sharing it on YouTube. And like I say, keep your eyes peeled, look for the app notifications and emails for the next fund coming very soon. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. See you next time.